Howdy y'all, I am Ice Cold, and today I kind of just wanted to revisit the glory days one more time just to see, I guess just sort of, because I can finally put into words why I think the old PvP, I guess, setup was far preferable compared to what we have today. And by old PvP, I mean PvP for, the stretch of about 7 months from April to November 2020, and that was when, anybody could beat anybody. And that was, in my honest opinion, and in many people's opinions, from what I've seen, that was the peak of PvP. Because, like I said, anybody could beat anybody, and there were no automatic losses in those days. And that is why, that's sort of why it's like I could finally put it into words. It's like the time where there were no automatic losses in the game was when the game was at its best. And because before the spring update in 2020, there was first and second, and that meant that there were automatic losses in a lot of cases, because how are you expected to like play the game at all from second? But once they added turn-based in that spring update in 2020, that's when the game hit its high point. Like it was a good time to be playing PvP, because it, like, there were no automatic losses. It's like I was saying, it's the game was much better from that point. And I really enjoyed it, and I uploaded videos from back then, and that's the footage that you're seeing. It's a little low quality because I didn't really know how to upscale yet, but you know how it goes. But yeah, I mean, just the idea of there being, like, you could queue up and not be afraid of getting, some sort of scenario where you just lost. And it's like, ice and fire were very strong back in those days. But even during the turn-based meta, and especially after the spell nerfs happened that summer, ice and fire were not nearly as oppressive as they once were, and you really could just queue up on any school, and you wouldn't automatically lose. There'd be matchups where you're, sort of disadvantaged, like if you were a myth and you queued up against the death, you couldn't use minions or really Baba Yaga at all because they would use Krulu and drain a bunch. But that was just one example, and then some schools did still struggle with ice and fire, but ultimately anybody could beat anybody, as I've said a million times, and that was why those days were the best. And the concept of automatic losses returned sometime after I quit back then, in 2020, late 2020, and when that happened, it's like when Rochambeau got added. It's like there was sort of 2020 was sort of the sweet spot when the game was both fun and didn't have any automatic losses, because before the spring update that year, like I said, first and second was a thing that was an automatic loss condition, and then after Rochambeau got added, then there were more automatic loss conditions, and that's just why it was sort of that's why it's been less enjoyable. It's like, I don't know if you can really say things are more fair these days, just because of that, just with automatic losses being a thing. And I mean, that there's all this stuff that it's like I was talking about in that MCSG video on Thursday. It's like there's all this stuff in the game that can screw you over and cause you to lose, and it's through no fault of your own. And that, I think, is where that's where my problems with the game at present sort of come from, with PvP at least, and just there being it's just queuing up and running the risk of getting somebody who is on the counter school, or just on a school that's favored against you through no fault of your own. It's like there's some matchups like ice versus fire right now where you can be the best ice in the world, but they're a fire wizard, so you lose. And that's sort of the main reason why I just sort of haven't really enjoyed PvP as much. It's like I came back to PvP in late 2023 because I wanted to give like all the new stuff a try, and I gave it a try, and I determined pretty quickly that that I liked old PvP better. But you know, what can you really say? It's like these automatic losses are probably a concept that's here to stay permanently, and that's not really making me a happy customer. And I mean, y'all know this by now. And I guess just I don't really know where the devs can necessarily go from here. It's like fixing this problem with there being automatic losses in the game would require them to completely go back on Rochambeau entirely, and that would be, it's like that would be just sort of, they wouldn't want to do that because they've already put all this work into it, and that's a big reason why, you know, I'm not going to be doing PvP after the end of this month, because it's like the solutions to all the problems are there. The developers just don't want to implement them. And that's why I've sort of been disillusioned as a PvP player for so many months, like over a year at this point, I feel like. And I do hope that, you know, PvP does eventually get better, but I guess I'm just not really optimistic. And, you know, it's just sort of, it's like, I don't know, I can't really put much into words outside of it's just automatic losses exist, and they are why the game is bad. And it's like, that's why 2020 PvP was better, because we had fun times and we didn't have automatic losses. That's kind of just what my point boils down to. It was a much more fun time to be playing the game, and I guess it's just sort of tragic to sort of see what the game's become, because it's like they had a good thing going in 2020 where, you know, you could queue up on any school and no matter who you got, you had a chance. But now there's matchups like, you know, Fire versus Storm. There's matchups like Ice versus Fire. There's matchups like Storm versus Life. There's matchups like, you know, Death versus Life, depending on how you want to look at that one. But I guess the main thing that I'm really just trying to say here is, it was the reason why I talk about the good old days so much, and the reason why I miss them so much, I mourn them, as it were, is because simply the game was much more fun, and it was less of like a chess type thing. It's like, I think that there should be counters to things, but it shouldn't be, it's like one school shouldn't directly counter another to the point where if the school that's getting countered queues up and gets the school that's countering, they would be better off fleeing, because it would be making the most of their time. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of what it really boils down to. I guess I don't really have much else to talk about. There's just the concept of automatic losses has really put a damper on my enjoyment of the game as of late, and that's just how I'm feeling about things. So I guess for now, y'all can check out just the rest of this this quick match video that I uploaded about 4.5 years ago now, which is kind of insane to say, but for now, thank y'all for watching. I've been Ice Gold. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave like 50 comments for the algorithm. My Discord is down in the description if you want to check with me some more, and I will see y'all later.